Good evening. We welcome you all to the April 20th Troy City Council meeting. And it is our pleasure this evening to have with us Father John J. Mesh from St. Anastasia Catholic Church to give us our invocation, and that will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. Father J.J. Oh, they got the mic on this side. There you go.
Well, gracious and loving God, in the midst of this beautiful season, we thank you for the bountiful blessings which you have bestowed upon us. We are grateful for the ways in which you have sheltered us in the past, and tonight we express our thanks for the yet unseen ways in which you will care for us in the future. So as we begin this public meeting, we ask that your presence be known. Please shower upon our civic leaders the power of wisdom, the power of right judgment, the power of knowledge. May you guide not only our decisions, but may our words be pleasing to you. May they not only honor you, but to all who hear them as well. Help us, Lord, to recognize the dignity and the worth in each person. And when we conclude, may we be satisfied that we have prudently used the gracious resources and gifts that you have given. And we offer this in your Son's name, Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Father J.J. It's always nice to see you. May we have the roll call, Mrs. Bartholomew?
Mayor Schilling?
Here.
Councilmember Beltramini?
Here.
Broomfield?
Here.
Eisenbacher?
Here.
Fleming?
Here.
Howard?
Here.
Kerwin?
Here.
Quorum present. This evening, we begin our meeting with 3 presentations, and they are all in service of others, which I'm sure Father J.J. appreciates and the community in general appreciates. Our first is on behalf of the City of Troy employees, the Casual for Cause program. In January and February, the Community Affairs Director, Cindy Stewart, is going to present a check to Cindy Corey, the Associate Development Director of Forgotten Harvest. Welcome.
As you all know, that we do Casual for Cause Day on Fridays and some other special days, and it's my pleasure today to present Forgotten Harvest with a check for $1,330.75. And do you want to tell them a little bit about Forgotten Harvest?
For every dollar that is raised through donations, Forgotten Harvest is able to provide 6 meals, which includes a meat, a potato, some kind of vegetable, and sometimes a dessert. We have a fleet of 18 trucks that travel throughout Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb County. What we do is we rescue food from 400 plus donors. That same day, we deliver free of charge to 150 agencies, which could be a soup kitchen, it could be a food pantry, or it could be a shelter. So we're very excited. Thank you so much for thinking of us.
You're very well.
Thank you. Now our next is for White Cane Week, which is April 24th through May 3rd. And Mrs. Stewart, he's getting organized. Mrs. Stewart, I'll step down, but things are down here. Okay, thank you. On behalf of this evening, you're going to be very impressed because we have this wonderful group of Lions that are here with us this evening. And I'd like all the folks that are the Lions folks to come up to the front, please. And these folks, if you'd like to stand here, are all, of course, doing things in service for others, which seems to be our theme tonight. Now, this is a proclamation for White Cane Week, which is April 24th through May 3rd of 2009, whereas the first white cane ordinance passed in December of 1930 in Peoria, Illinois, giving blind pedestrians protection and the right-of-way while carrying a white cane. And whereas at the 1931 convention held in Toronto, the Lions Club International promoted the white cane as a protective device for the blind. And whereas in 1937, Donald Schur, a Detroit area Lion, sent a proposal to the Michigan legislature making the white cane a symbol to protect blind persons in Michigan. It was signed into law by Governor Frank Murphy in March of 1937. And whereas since that time, governors of Michigan continue to proclaim the last weekend in April through the first weekend in May as White Cane Week. During that week, Lions all over Michigan sell the white cane pins throughout their communities. And whereas we applaud the newly formed Troy Community Lions Club for their participation in White Cane Week, seeking to raise awareness and money to provide goods and services to persons with disabilities, young people, civic organizations, and others in the community with special needs. And now therefore be it resolved that the Troy City Council does hereby proclaim April 24th through May 3rd, 2009 as White Cane Week in the city of Troy, Michigan, and be it further resolved that the City Council calls upon all the citizens, community agencies, organizations, and businesses to encourage all citizens of Troy to help support the Troy Community Lions Club during White Cane Week and throughout the year. Signed, presented this 20th day of April 2009, signed by myself and all members of council. And we have our own Barbara, who is the president here of the Troy Community Lions Club. I'm going to present it to you, and you have a few things you'd like to say.
Yes, I would. First of all, I would like to thank City Council for all their support and the employees of the City of Troy. Secondly, I really want to thank Kroger's. We're going to be starting Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then the following Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Kroger's on Long Lake and Square Lake and Long Lake and Livernois, and the Hollywood Market on West Maple. We're going to be out there with our little aprons here and our canes, and we hope to see everybody. Thank you very much.
He especially likes me to smell very I really enjoy company.
Great. Thank you very much.
Now, our next proclamation is for the National Association of Letter Carriers. And I'm looking for who's here. Yes, come forward, please. What? I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. Pardon? Yes, would you like to come up here? Sure. This is Linda Amer, and you're with the Troy Post Office. Yes, and this is National Association of Letter Carriers Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive Day on May 9th. Every year they have this. In 2009, this is our proclamation. Whereas the National Association of Letter Carriers, in conjunction with the United States Postal Service, is sponsoring the 17th annual NALC National Food Drive to Stamp Out Hunger on Saturday, May 9th, 2009. And whereas the NALC branch 3126 in the city of Troy is participating in the National Food Drive, as they do every year, the largest one-day food drive in the nation. And whereas the cost of inaction is too high, particularly in the face of many negative outcomes for our children and community, which are preventable. Whereas NALC President William H. Young encourages postal carriers and communities to work together because as postal workers, quote, no other people in America can possibly do what we can do to fight hunger, reaching to every city and town, in every neighborhood and on every street, end quote. Whereas more than 1,400 local branches of the 300,000 member postal union collected a record 73.1 million pounds of food in last year's drive for local food banks, pantries, and shelters helping families throughout the nation. Now therefore be it resolved, the City Council of the City of Troy hereby proclaims Saturday, May 9th, 2009 as National Association of Letter Carriers Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive Day in the City of Troy. And be it further resolved, we invite all Troy residents to leave non-perishable food at their mailboxes on Saturday, May 9th, 2009 to support our local letter carriers in their food drive to help alleviate hunger in our community and throughout the nation. And this is signed this 20th day of April 2009 by myself, all the members of council, and we do wish to thank you for all your good work.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. You want to say a few words?
If I could.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I want to take the time out just to thank all the Troy residents. Last year was our biggest in a long time, and each and every year the need for the food is greater and greater with our economy being what it is. Please take the time out to put out as much food as you can, and again, we thank you.
Thank you. So as you can see, 3 organizations which are in the service of helping others, and there are many more within our community that each try to do their part each and every day. We have no carryover items tonight or public hearings or postponed items. So therefore, our first item is going to be the public comment, and that is limited to items that are not on the agenda. We had 3 people sign up for that, and so I will call on them. We have Yanting Jing. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Thank you for
that's
coming.
pretty close.
Welcome.
Okay. So we're from Troy High Build On, and we would just like to thank Mayor Schilling and the rest of the City Council for allowing us this opportunity to speak. So, good evening. My name is Yanting Jing,
And I'm Gina Chen.
and we are both students at Troy High and members of Build On, a national nonprofit organization that promotes education in developing countries and service in our local communities.
Build On has many extensions in high schools, and we have been very fortunate to be able to participate in such a global network just by living in Troy.
Next Friday, May 1st, we'll be holding our second annual benefit dinner at St. Stephen's Episcopal Church on 5500 North Adams here in Troy from 6 to 9 p.m. And Mayor Schilling has most graciously chosen to attend as our guest of honor.
We'd like to extend an invitation to the rest of City Council and the whole community to join us for an evening of celebration. We are honoring Mayor Schilling for her unyielding dedication for high standards of education in Troy, and we are also commemorating our accomplishments in helping our community as students and citizens of Troy and of Michigan.
We are not only raising money to build a school abroad, but we ourselves will also be traveling and physically working there to further our education. In fact, this summer I have been chosen to travel with a group to go to Nicaragua to literally build a school from the ground up, and Gina here has been on a similar trek as well. Tickets can be purchased for this dinner and reserved by emailing thsbuildon@gmail.com.
Okay. And a final note of appreciation for Cindy Stewart and Mayor Schilling. Thank you for letting us announce our dinner.
Thank you. And I do have the flyers. I didn't bring them with me this evening, but I will provide them to council, and perhaps we could have flyers that we lay out. We have an area where we put community events. We post them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's always wonderful to have the high school students involved, and thank you. That's great.
Thank you.
Our next member that would like to speak on things that are not on the agenda, James Savage. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I was looking at the front page of this paper the other day, and apparently there was a meeting out front, or a protest meeting, and there was a couple of little paragraphs that caught my eye, and one of them was that here's the deal. These are normal, down-to-earth people who pay their taxes and are sick of government spending. Another one, we're not with a political party organization. And then it goes on to a quote by Glenn Clark, Troy resident, and Oakland County Republican Party. I thought there was a little conflict there. But nevertheless, the thought of government spending is a subject that I hold dear. And it says, we are sick of government spending our taxes. Well, I'm wondering where these people have been for the last 30 years. Do they have memory lapses regarding periods when we had surpluses and when we had deficits? Spending taxpayer money by governments of all levels is nothing new to me. And that brings me to my comments on this council's needlessly spending money to search for a new city manager. 3 years ago, we were in a similar situation when Mr. Zerlag quit. Mr. Lamorato took over as acting city manager, as well as doing his own job as finance manager. And that was at a time when the administration was extremely busy. There was the Monarch project. There was 2 village PUD projects. There were many site condominium projects. There were strip mill projects. All of this was going on. This was a very busy time. Our agenda was full. And projects of all, and it turned out that there was really no demand for this. But nevertheless, Mr. Lamorato handled it very smoothly. And now, when there was almost nothing on the agenda, you're laying off people at the bottom of the line and cutting back on services. You're spending tens of thousands of taxpayer dollars to search for a manager that really there is no demand for. You had an ideal opportunity to eliminate a top position without hurting anyone. Everyone has acknowledged that we have a very proficient staff that have handled things during hectic days. Surely we could count on them to get us through the next year, which we know will be very slow. We would save at least $100,000 in salary alone. If council is determined to hire a new manager, why do we have to pay an outside consulting firm to do the search? Our Michigan Municipal League representative, Mrs. Baltamini, has access to a list of potential candidates. Our Human Resources Department has all the procedural information, and Mr. Zerdak is as knowledgeable as anyone to know what qualifications are needed, and you, the City Council, in the end, have the final say. So, why do we need this outside help? We've got all the expertise right here, and we do not need to be paying tens of thousands of dollars to some outside company. I believe as a team, you kind of fumbled the ball on this one, but I don't think it's too late to pick it up. But nevertheless, going back to my first comments, people are justifiably angry at government spending. But really, let's put our own house in order first, before we criticize what goes on anywhere else. Now, on a lighter note, again, for the Troy High School, I'd like to be you to be aware of those of you who may be over 55 years old. This is for seniors. And if you are, the Troy High School is holding its Senior Citizens Prom at the high school. The band is one of the best bands in the area. They're a great band, and it's all free. And there's light refreshments, so put your dancing shoes on, let your hair down. That doesn't apply to all of us. And come out. This is on Thursday, this Thursday, April 23rd, 6 till 9 p.m. And I'd like to see you all there. If I get enough requests, I might sing. But that usually does not happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Savage. Marvin Reinhardt signed up. Good evening.
Good evening. That was quite a thing out there. Saturday, was it? All those people standing up and down the hallway out there, the teabaggers or whatever they were. Useless. You don't see them in here. You know, just useless people. I beginning to support the transit system. That I think you guys should build it. We got enough money in the bag. If it's a positive thing, why don't we build it and then it's a profit? So I don't know why you guys screwing around looking for something that's supposed to make a profit for people giving you money. I would just build it. And then you also got to tell the path people to build a path to the transit center. That'd be a good idea. They don't even plan. See, the path people don't plan on you guys building it because they don't have a path to the transit center in their program. I don't know if you know that or not. But I do think the transit center should be built, you know, because we just need more pollution over there. We got an electrical grid over there. We got 24-hour stores open all the time, and all that pollution goes in Birmingham. That's great. I love it. And also I noticed that right next to the school, Troy High, they call it the senior center now, that they seem to make a park. They made a park there, maybe in 2 weeks or less, and the city's saying, we got too much expenses, we have too many employees, so let's make a park so then maybe an outside contractor can do it. That's a great idea. Plus you can't even get to it. You can't get to it. Not the seniors, because it's built next to the senior center. I figure you figure a bridge over it. That'd be a good idea. There's no bridge there. Also, too, that is the Lions Club that came in and squashed me and made sure I got banned from the Troy Chamber, I believe. So I believe in Lionism, but give you money to some other Lions Club, okay? That one's tainted, and I will be producing a YouTube. Don't worry, because I got them on tape. Because I get a lot of calls on my cell phone, okay? I'm just trying to be nice because I'm just waiting till somebody runs for public office. And as far as Nolenbergs go, I don't know. I went up to his PR guy, the city elected him, and he sort of spit in my face. So he's really going up there. And I'm just trying to be nice to him because he's a Republican. That is, they do have. Oh yeah, I try to put foyers into your things, and I get these things that say, we're too busy, it takes too long to get this done. So I'm just going to do my foyers out here, and maybe somebody out there can give me the answer to these things. One, that I know when John said he quit, but he resigned something down there, he got compensation from the place, X number of $1,000s a month. And I don't know if he's getting that plus his salary up here or not. So I'll just let somebody else talk to me about it, because according to the newspaper, he's getting $1,000 a month compensation because he didn't quit. He was fired, or he fired, he was quit. But I understand. I'm the same type of person. General Motors do that to me all the time. Because that's why I'm here today, to give me compensation for their mistakes. So that's all I have to say, and I'm glad that you guys supported all those Lions, because, like I say, I'm going to replace you all. Have a good day.
Is there anyone else that's here on items that are not on the agenda? Seeing none, then we'll go to our regular business. And I scrolled to see if there was anyone here on a particular item, and I see that no one signed up for a particular item, so therefore we'll just go through in our regular order. That means that our first is E1, appointments to boards and committees. And we have some names that were brought forward at the last regular meeting. And so if we could have those moved in. Mayor Pro Tem Howard?
Mayor, I'll move the resolution as printed on the agenda to appoint Glenn Clark, Joanne Thompson, Albert T. Nelson, Jr.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Howard, second by Councilwoman Beltramini. Discussion? The vote, Mrs. Bartholomew?
Mayor Schilling,
Yes?
Councilmember Beltramini,
Yes.
Broomfield,
Yes.
Eisenbacher,
Yes.
Fleming,
Yes.
Howrlack,
Yes.
Kerwin.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next, we have forwarding of names for various boards and committees, and I'll call on Mayor Pro Tem Howard and then anyone else that has names to bring forward. Some of them might be reappointments. Were there any that?
There were no reappointments, and the incumbent on the Personnel Board has asked me not to reappoint her. And so I have also been asked by another individual to be nominated, so I will nominate F. Jack Witt III to serve on the Personnel Board for a term expiring on April 30th, 2012.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Howard, seconded by Councilwoman Broomfield, that we forward the name of Jack Witt for the Personnel Board for the term expiring April 30th, 2012. Any other names that folks want to bring forward? Just recently, we received a form from Rosemary Gallardo. I didn't bring it with me this evening to see if one of these committees is one that she had on there or not. Is there a way that we could bring that up?
None of the boards that currently have openings.
Okay, thank you. I was having computer problems on the weekend, so there were some things I couldn't search for. Anyway, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, then could we have the vote on the forwarding of Jack Witt for the Personnel Board?
Councilmember Beltramini,
Yes.
Broomfield,
Yes.
Eisenbacher,
Yes.
Fleming,
Yes.
Howrlack,
Yes.
Kerwin,
Yes.
Mayor Schilling.
Yes. Motion passes. And E3 is Chapter 60, fees and bonds required for the police records section service fees.
Madam Mayor,
Councilwoman Beltramini?
there's a corrected copy on the table, and with the understanding that that would be the one attached, I would resolve that the Troy City Council hereby adopts an ordinance amendment to Chapter 60, fees and bonds required of the Troy City Code, Section 60.04, Fee Schedule, Police Department Records, Section Service Fees, as prepared by City Administration, a copy of which shall be attached to the original minutes of this meeting.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Moved by Councilwoman Beltramini, seconded by Councilman Eisenbacher, that we approve the resolution as printed with the, with the change. Was there actually a change here,
Yes,
Councilman Beltramini?
there was a rewording.
Oh, this is
yes.
so hard to read in the blue one.
It's on the back.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion? Vote, Mrs. Bartholomew?
Councilmember Broomfield,
Yes.
Eisenbacher,
Yes.
Fleming,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Kerwin,
Yes.
Mayor Schilling,
Yes.
Councilmember Beltramini,
Yes.
Motion passes. E4 is a bid waiver for the sole source service for fire service management.
Madam Mayor,
Councilwoman Kerwin?
I'll move the resolution whereas fire service management is the sole known local service provider for cleaning and repair of turnout gear, protective clothing for the city's firefighters. Whereas before fire service management can make an evaluation or repair, the clothing must be professionally cleaned to remove potential carcinogens. And whereas it is desirable that in order to extend the life and service of the fire department's protective clothing, it is in the city's and firefighters' best interest to clean and repair turnout gear and replace when beyond their useful life of 10 years. Therefore, be it resolved that Troy City Council hereby waives formal bidding procedures and hereby authorizes the City of Troy to enter into a contract with Fire Service Management of Southfield, Michigan for cleaning and repair of turnout gear, protective clothing in an amount not to exceed $20,000 each year.
Support.
Moved by Councilwoman Kerwin, seconded by Councilman Eisenbacher, that we approve the resolution as printed in red. Discussion, and we do have the Fire Chief, Bill Nelson, here if you have questions. Seeing none, I guess all the data was there for them. Okay, thank you. Mrs. Bartholomew, could we have the vote?
Councilmember Eisenbacher,
Yes.
Fleming,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Kerwin,
Yes.
Mayor Schilling,
Yes.
Councilmember Beltramini,
Yes.
Broomfield,
Yes.
Motion passes. On the table, we have a resolution to suspend the rules of procedure for an item E5. Correct? Yes. Would someone like to move that?
Madam Mayor, resolved that Troy City Council hereby suspends rules of procedure for the City Council Rule Number 6 Order of Business and authorizes City Council to amend their agenda to allow Council to discuss and take action on item E5, Executive Search, which does not appear on the printed agenda.
Support.
Moved by Councilwoman Kerwin, seconded by Councilwoman Beltramini, that we approve the resolution to suspend the rules. Discussion? The vote, Mrs. Bartholomew?
Councilmember Fleming,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Kerwin,
Yes.
Mayor Schilling,
Yes.
Councilmember Beltramini,
Yes.
Broomfield,
Yes.
Eisenbacher,
Yes.
Motion passes. E5 on the table, we have three documents. One is the withdrawal of Mr. Blockett's firm as a consultant. One is the city manager search documents, and the other is the agenda item for March 30th, evaluating proposals to conduct the executive search for city manager. Mrs. Bloom, do you have anything you want to add before we start? I see you're looking like you...
Yeah, just, Mayor, in addition to the withdrawal of Charles J. Blockett Jr. as our search consultant, attached to that also is the evaluation form executive search position of city manager, which is provided for, just again, it's a duplicate copy of what we previously had at the March 30th meeting. In addition, all of the council members tonight were given a flash drive of all of the 6 proposals, just in case. Obviously, this came very late today, so it is there in case you need to refer to that.
Okay. So the order of business tonight would be to discuss this again, and if council so chooses, to select another one of the firms. We rated them previously, and we have our rating sheet. That's where we're at. Councilwoman Kerwin?
Well, I'm hoping we can just have some general discussion before. I know that the attorney has supplied a series of resolutions, but just an observation. When we were last together, I noticed a level of comfort among council with our acting city manager. And we have in front of us something marked E5, this one, the thick one. Please turn to 3 pages from the back. One of the last things we did when we were together was really to talk about the ideal candidate. And as we were going through compiling this list of qualities that were very important to us, it became apparent to me that John Zerlag possesses these qualities. That at least 4 members of council had approached him to come in and help us out in a rough place, and he has obliged and performed wonderfully well, in my opinion. We are now under the gun. We have a shortened time frame. As members of the public have pointed out, we are under restricted funds. I'm wondering if we might consider simply appointing our acting city manager as a manager for the remainder of the year. That way we can proceed with some of the important issues that we need to, not take another stop-start, stutter-start as we have been, and do away with the need for a search firm.
Would other council members like to comment at this point?
Mayor?
Councilman Eisenbach.
I am open to the idea of Mr. Zerlag, but I'm not open to a temporary permanent solution. I mean, the goal should be for us to come together and select a permanent city manager per the guidance of our charter. I'm really not interested in just having a temporary period of time.
Would Mr. Zerlag have signaled? Yes, okay. Mr. Zerlag?
Thank you. I appreciate the kind words. At this point in time, I'm not interested in being a full-time city manager for the city of Troy. And you may wish to consider going out for a consultant to find a full-time city manager or permanent city manager and see where that takes you. If you're asking me to be a city manager for the city of Troy on a full-time basis, I would need time to think about that, discuss it with my wife, with a couple of people that I plan on working with in the near future, and then get back to you. I would not be prepared to make any decision tonight, except that if you wish to proceed to find a consulting firm, you may want to go along that track.
I know that our time span between March 31st and, what is it, July 28th, when we must do an appointment, has shortened, so we no longer have 120 days. So council should give consideration to the fact that we have a shortened time frame here in their discussion. Mr. Zerlag?
Not to monopolize the conversation, but if I can say one more thing about the time frame. And I did tell this to a couple of members that spoke to me today about, and this is only my philosophy, and I could be dead wrong, but the charter that we have, circa 1954, was developed at a time when you had a city manager that probably was also the HR director and the purchasing agent and the public works director, maybe the city engineer, And he had working for him, and it was always a man at that point in time, a police chief and fire chief with probably a high school education, an assessor, a clerk, and a dog catcher. And therefore, when the manager left, there wasn't much continuity in a professionally run organization. So there was a sense of urgency to maintain the tenets of a council manager plan within 4 months. Nowadays, 2009, with Brian Murphy and John Lamorato and myself, 3 of us have master's degrees. We didn't even have masters in public administration back in 1954. We have probably between the 3 of us 30-some years of manager, assistant manager experience. And so, again, from my view, there's not a circumvention per se of the charter by waiting more than 120 days if need be and finding a way around that. If it was 1954, absolutely, because you'd have no one to fill in that void.
Okay, Councilwoman Beltrame?
I have a couple of thoughts. One, like David, I'm not interested in a temporary, permanent, temporary kind of situation. I think we were put here to do a job and we need to do it. I also said last Thursday night that I don't want to circumvent the charter and I'm not interested in doing that. I think that the withdrawal of Charles Block and Associates from this search changes things a bit. I believe that Mrs. Learstein talked to the remaining firms to find out if there was a prayer of them completing a search in 100 days, so she might have a report on that. And if for some reason we can't get it done, then I think take whatever action we feel is necessary. But I don't think we want to plan to fail.
Okay.
And I think we need to move forward.
Mr. Zerlag, may I call on Mrs. Learstein at this point to find out what she inquired from the other firms?
Of course, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Mrs. Learstein?
Thank you. I did make contact with the 5 remaining firms in the process, and all of them are interested in continuing in the process, if that's what you choose to do.
Did they indicate any concern about the shortened time frame?
They did not. They did say that perhaps the proposal would have to be tweaked a bit to meet some of the deadlines, but they still felt comfortable that they could complete it.
Okay, thank you. Council, do you have any questions for Mrs. Learstein, since she's the one that spoke to the firms? Okay, Councilman Eisbacher?
One of the items we developed at our study session was a timeline. I'm curious if we could forward that timeline to the firms.
Mrs. Blum?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. That actually is the second. As a result of all of the documentation that you guys went through at the study meeting, one of the things there was the timeline, and it is attached as the second packet for your consideration. And if council chooses to approve the substance of that, certainly we would be willing to work with the search firm that is hired ultimately. But all of those documents are there. They were done by the time we got the withdrawal from Mr. Blockett, so they are there for your approval. And again, I thank Mrs. Learstein and Ms. Sears and also Ms. Bartholomew for doing their quick turnaround today of all of this information. And she did, Susan did contact the firms, and we're very happy that they are all willing to still work for the city of Troy if that's what we choose to do.
We don't know for sure, though, that they would want to keep with the schedule, the firms would want to keep with the schedule that we set up, or because each have their own way of doing a search. We don't know that.
Right, but
Mrs. Blum?
Mayor, what we did do is, because of the limited time frame and because of the council availability, certainly we thought it would be helpful for the search firm to have the available dates and also an expedited time frame. Certainly there may be revisions that need to be made there, but we did provide it, and certainly that could be forwarded on to any search firm that you do choose.
They have not seen that documentation, though. They just had the phone call.
No, it was
right?
done at about 7 o'clock this
Right.
evening.
Okay.
So
I I didn't think that there
Yeah.
would have been time to get that to them. I was just trying to get a reaction. I can appreciate the fact that Councilman Eisenbacher, that we'd like to keep to a similar schedule if possible, but if we go with a different firm, we should have, after all, if we're going to hire them, they need to do the work, not us, and they need to have parameters of when we could meet and the kinds of expectations. Some of it, of course, will be similar from firm to firm, but maybe not the same. Further comments? When we did our meeting of the 30th, and we had telephone conversations with an interview with each of the 6 companies, and then, well, we had already rated them based on the written data. Then we had the telephone interviews. Then we added that, and we asked Mrs. Learstein to tally up. We had the Michigan Municipal League as the top-rated, receiving points. Then it was, let me look here. The second firm was Waters Consulting, is that correct? And then the third was Lockett, and then we did Smith Recruiting, CPS, and the DQ Group. I don't know how folks feel at this point, if they feel that since we had rated the MML top rated before, and they've indicated that they might be interested this time, if you want to go with them.
Mayor?
I don't know. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Howard.
Well, I have a procedure question and wanted to know if we need to put forward a motion to reconsider or if we need to have a motion to accept Mr. Blockett's withdrawal, what the proper process is to go through with this.
Mrs. Bloom?
Certainly, that would be, actually, one of the reasons why he had submitted this before the contract, he did this before the contract was signed. So we do not currently have a contract. However, there is a resolution that does award him the contract, so it would certainly be appropriate to accept the withdrawal of Mr. Blockett as one item. And then as far as the reconsideration, I'm going to defer to our parliamentarian on that one, Ms. Bartholomew.
Mrs. Bartholomew?
The council rules allows for council to make a motion to reconsider at any meeting. Robert's rules does specify that it's to be the next meeting. So with our rules in place, it would be appropriate to accept a motion to reconsider, or if council so chooses, they could accept his withdrawal of the contract. Either one will work.
Councilman Eisenbacher?
I think it'd be appropriate to accept the withdrawal. Do we need to have, unfortunately, this is getting into the sausage making aspect. Do we need to have a motion to authorize or to suspend our rules of procedure to have this new resolution, or can we just?
Being as though this is an active item, you can make a motion, and you can also make a motion of rescission, and then it's done. If you do a reconsideration, that's going to take 2 votes. So if you do a rescission, it's 1.
Okay. I'd like to go ahead and offer a motion to rescind.
Do you want to know the motion number? The resolution number? Do we have to have the resolution number in there?
That can be inserted.
We can insert it. We
Okay.
can also do the topic.
All right.
Rescind the resolution awarding the executive search contract to Mr. Blockett. Support.
Moved by Councilman Eisenbacher, seconded by Councilman Fleming, that we rescind the resolution to award the search firm contract to the Charles Blockett Jr. firm. Discussion? The vote, Mrs. Bartholomew?
Councilmember Howard?
Yes.
Kerwin?
Yes.
Mayor Schilling?
Yes.
Councilmember Beltramini?
Yes.
Broomfield?
Yes.
Eisenbacher?
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Madam Mayor.
Councilwoman Kerwin?
If council is determined to use a search firm and not stay in-house, I would suggest that we go low bid to specifications, which would be MML.
Are you making a motion to that effect?
I don't know that we've completely talked whether we are going to seek an outside firm or not. Have we discussed
all right.
that to the satisfaction of everyone? Okay, then let's go ahead and discuss that first.
Mayor.
Councilman Eisbacher.
My concern with the Michigan Municipal League is first of all, their experience outside of Michigan, and second, their experience in bringing in people that aren't currently city managers or involved in city management. And that was one of the interests that was expressed by our council, is having some outside experience, and being able to draw upon that pool did not appear to be a strong suit of the Michigan Municipal League in their information and their past hiring. I'm much more open to, I also consider the information that was provided about another one of the local communities that did not have success going through that process that we discussed at our previous meetings. I'm much more open to the other candidates on the list as opposed to the Michigan Municipal League.
I don't know that we know for sure that Michigan Municipal League doesn't have the capacity to search for others that are not in presently in the local government venue. Perhaps I know that it's not under the jurisdiction of Councilwoman Beltramini, because she has indicated that it's a separate organization she doesn't have any purview over, but she might have some data with regard to that. So if she wants to tell us anything, I'd appreciate it.
I don't have any hard and fast data. I do have anecdotal information, as I've talked to various people in the organization about this search. No, they're well aware that we're looking for a spectrum of candidates, and they still today were interested. So I don't think that we've made that any secret. And quite honestly, at this point in our 120 days, and I do think that the most important thing in this process is to come out of it with a city manager that is a good fit for the city of Troy. But I think part of some of the frustration we've had in this process already is the language of municipal government. And from that standpoint, the league could hit the ground running and know what they're looking for given the parameters we would give them. Waters Aldani is a decent firm. They are not of long tenure in the Midwest. And I think that Midwestern cities, it is my own personal opinion, Midwestern cities do better with Midwestern values in their managers. And I have lived on both coasts and several places in between, so I feel somewhat qualified to say that. Waters Aldani doesn't fit that bill for me, so.
Further down the list.
There's nothing there.
One of the things on their proposal was under the organization profile. It said on the Michigan Municipal League gave us is that, and it's on page 48 of our flash drive here. The organization profile details positional duties and responsibilities, the organizational structure, services provided, budget information, and related details. It's also used to describe internal strengths and challenges that a new manager can expect, along with goals and expectations for the position. And I think that council has indicated that they'd like to look at candidates both within city manager type positions that are people that are presently in those positions, and also others in the general field of expertise, but also with the expectations that were delineated in our profile that we did with a certain education, experience level, etc. There's a whole list of those that we went through. And I'm sure that if we said to the Michigan Municipal League as a search firm that we expect that as they look, that they would meet those expectations. I don't think that they would just look at folks that don't have the qualifications that the majority of council is expecting. They're very reputable as far as providing a good matchup with communities. That's my opinion.
Madam Mayor?
Yes. Yes.
One procedural question.
Yes, Councilman Eisbacher?
Since this wasn't an item on the agenda, we didn't ask the audience if there's anyone here who wanted to speak on this item.
Well, we could do that at some point. The problem is that we're in the middle of a discussion with council, and when we interrupt that flow of the discussion, the ultimate decision is with us. Certainly, we always take input. If
I don't know if we want to get further in our discussion. I just realized if we want to continue with our discussion, or we don't want to skip that on this item.
Okay.
That's it.
Councilwoman Kerwin?
And perhaps other people would recall, but I think that we asked each search firm that specific question on would you be looking at both inside and outside, and I think that MML did respond positively. Another advantage with MML was that we had a choice on with whom we would work. And so the person who happened to be conducting the phone interview, known for deep network within Michigan, also knows our community well, and I think that would be helpful. Finally and foremost, not only was ML the most reasonable, but also ranked the highest in the evaluation form that we chose to pass at this table.
Further discussion or comments?
Mayor?
Mayor Protem Hammerlack?
I think in accordance with our rules of procedure, it would be appropriate at this time to take public comment.
Okay, if you wish so. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this item? Yes, sir. Would you come forward? Give us your name.
I'm Michael Smith, and I'm one of the principals of one of the organizations that you're discussing here. And I was contacted today and asked if I was interested in continuing on and participating in the search.
You were contacted by Mrs. Learstein?
That's correct. And I indicated that I was. After further thought, I thought since I live nearby, it might be worthwhile to just come and see what was being discussed here and offer any assistance that I could. I suppose that there's no harm either in indicating by my presence that I'm interested and willing to work with council and the mayor and the administration to have a good outcome for this process. So actually, rather than making any presentation, which I think would just duplicate what I've already done, I'd make an offer if anybody here would like to ask me further questions. I'd be happy to answer them. The one point that I'd like to perhaps offer, and this is something that came to mind while I was sitting watching the proceedings, that there does seem to be some undercurrent of interest in doing the search work internally, either to save money or to expedite the matter. And that's something that I've done in the past and would be willing to work with the various people involved in the decision-making process to work in that way. So rather than providing a full search service, as we were originally asked to quote on, I'd be willing to provide certain aspects of the service that are particularly appropriate for the recruiter to perform, and then have the rest of the work be carried out by internal City of Troy employees in the Human Resource Department.
Mr. Smith, I'm not trying to embarrass you with this comment, but I do recall at the telephone interview when you were asked specifically if you'd ever done a city manager search.
Right.
And you indicated you had not.
That's correct.
I also need to indicate, have you seen the tallying of the scores when we rated all the 6 firms?
No, I don't believe that was put online. I have read the other proposals, though, and I'd be happy to discuss any concerns or reservations that you have.
Okay. Council, do you have questions for Mr. Smith? No. Councilman Eisenbacher? Question for Mr. Smith?
Well, question and a comment. I believe the reason, in looking at the scores, the reason that Mr. Smith had been ranked poorly was largely due to his fee. We had made some assumptions based on the fee and based on the quote, because his quote had been different from the others. If you remember, it was a percent of salary based on a successful completion of the search, which means if he didn't find anyone, he wouldn't be paid. Two of the search firms had quoted that way. I'm curious, what portion of the search process would you see done as more of an expertise of a search firm, and what's more the stuff that an HR department would take care of?
Well, there's 3 aspects of the search that I think are most appropriate for the recruiter. The first of those is developing a marketing plan and conducting a marketing plan to promote the position amongst people who are likely to be both qualified and interested, and then conducting advertising, making direct phone calls to individuals that perhaps would be viable candidates. That's certainly a function of the search firm. The second would be taking the resumes of those candidates that are interested in potential fits for the position, screening those individuals through a phone interview, doing at least an initial background check on those people to verify the information on their resume. And that, I think at that point then, it really, regardless of what kind of a search you're conducting, the onus is on the decision makers to then interview and get comfortable with the various candidates. And that's not something that the recruiter really needs to be involved in. Many recruiters like to be involved in that part, but it's more a matter of having control or imposing their own control over the process and assuring a successful outcome for the recruiter. Then finally, the third particular function would be conducting a background check and reference checks, which I think is probably the most important part of the process. And the reason I say that is because, as has been discussed, if you don't meet your 120-day deadline, it's problematic. But if you hire somebody who, as it turns out, may have embezzled money or has committed some crime, has been an embarrassment for his previous employers, then you're going to have a lot more trouble on your hands than having just blown through the 120-day deadline. So for that reason, I consider it extremely important to fully vet, investigate, research not only the character of the individuals that you're considering, but to confirm that they're genuinely qualified for the level of responsibility entailed in the job. And that's not something that you're necessarily going to get from reference sources that are provided by the candidate. It's almost like doing a credit check by investigating friends of the person that's asking for credit.
Okay, let me interrupt you. All of the firms indicated that they do a full search, and we certainly would expect that anyone would have that full investigative work done on them. I have a little bit of a problem with you coming this evening for two reasons. First of all, the other firms aren't here. Secondly, your name was provided to the HR director by a member of council, and so I have some angst with that. And I need to say that up front.
Yes, I certainly understand that. And I'm not sure that the means by which I might have come to the attention of the city is necessarily a disqualifying factor for being able to do the work. And I'd certainly invite you to check my references, talk to people that I've worked with. My office was in the city of Troy for almost a decade. I live nearby. I've lived in the state of Michigan for over 30 years. Those are all things that can be easily verified, and I'd be happy to come and address anyone who's involved in decision-making capacity on this issue. But my point was to demonstrate to you that I'm interested in performing the work, give you a chance to ask me questions directly, and if you need to, be in a position to start tomorrow on this search. On the other hand, if you decide to go with another organization or not to use an outside organization, I'd be happy to provide any insight or information to the mayor or the council that could be of help.
Mayor, I
Thank you,
have two
Mr.
further
Smith.
questions. if I may.
Councilman Eismacher.
Just as a refresher, what public sector firms have you done searches for?
When you say public sector, do you mean governmental organizations?
Governmental, quasi-governmental.
It's generally been my preference to avoid working with governmental entities because they can be overly bogged down by procedure and not particularly able to come to a decision when a decision needs to be made. But I've done work for universities, including Northwestern University in Illinois. I've done work for many private sector companies, including a company that's a significant employer in the state of Michigan, and other Michigan-based companies. And I've been doing this for 22 years. And almost all of my business has been repeat business from regular customers, and I'd be happy to share that list with you privately.
Okay. And the final question is, what would be the reduced cost?
Well, the cost, what I'm proposing here is I'll help you do this type of an arrangement rather than you hire me to do it and I let you know when it's finished. And in that type of a circumstance, depending on what assistance your human resource department needs, then that's what would determine the cost. But my guess, and I'd be willing to assure this, is that it would be significantly less than $15,000 to $20,000.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you for listening.
Council members, does anyone have anything that they wish to explore before we do and if we're going to do a resolution?
Well, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Howard.
Well, I would say I'm in agreement with Councilwoman Beltramini in that we do need to have a city manager, and I'm certainly not interested in pushing the envelope of the charter. I think Mr. Zerlich does bring up a good point. It's somewhat tangential, but I do think that we might want to investigate amending our charter so that when this happens in the future, that there are other venues, perhaps a little bit more flexibility for the future city council. But at this point, I definitely think we need to have a permanent city manager by, I think it's the end of July.
End of July, yeah.
And there certainly needs to be some form of outside assistance, I think.
Madam Mayor?
Councilwoman Kerwin?
I do agree it would be a good recommendation to have the Charter Commission look at that. I I think that there were some good points made, and I would support Mayor Pro Tem Harlech's idea on that. I would also move a resolution, if I may.
Go ahead. Yes.
Whereas City Council received proposals from executive search firms to search for the Troy City Manager, and whereas City Council has selected, and I'll put in our low bid specifications and number 1 rank, Michigan Municipal League, to perform an executive search for a city manager, and whereas at the April 20th, 2009 regular City Council meeting, the City Attorney presented City Council with a proposed contract for executive search services, and whereas the final contract will be substantially similar as the draft contract provided and is amended by the search firm proposal, and there is a need to expedite the process in consideration of tight time constraints. Now therefore be it resolved, the Troy City Council hereby authorizes the City Attorney to negotiate a final contract for executive search services with the Michigan Municipal League, and if the contract is substantially similar to the draft, with the exception of changes in the proposal, then the Mayor and City Clerk are hereby authorized to execute the document, a copy of which shall be attached to the original minutes of this meeting.
Support.
Moved by Councilwoman Kerwin, seconded by Councilwoman Beltramini, that we approve the resolution that is on the table and as read by Councilwoman Kerwin.
Madam Mayor,
Councilwoman Beltramini?
before we go too much further, I do want to correct evidently a misunderstanding. In Mr. Savage's comments, he said that I had access to a list of folks who were looking to be city managers, and that is not the case. I have access to discussions of people who are willing to be interim city managers. So I just wanted to clarify that, have somebody not think that I've seconded a motion to do something that costs the taxpayers money that I could do if I were willing. I can't. I don't have that information.
I would like to say at this juncture that with this resolution on the table and when we're having a discussion, that we have done some preliminary work for a search firm, and hopefully some of that information will be useful. We're going to have to set up another meeting, I'm sure, if this resolution is successful. Further discussion?
Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem Howard?
Well, I am thinking, and I really believe that we need to have a broader search, and I expressed this before, and without disparaging the MML, and they certainly have a lot of things that, not to disparage my colleague, because I think she does a very good job, but I have major issues with the political involvement of the MML, and so I'm actually, and I do believe that we need to have a broad pool of candidates, and I think we can get a broader pool of candidates by using a firm with more experience outside of Michigan, but also with experience inside of Michigan. And I am going to move forward a substitute resolution which replaces the Waters-Oldani and all places where Michigan Municipal League is referenced in the resolution on the table.
Moved by Councilman Howard.
I'll support it for discussion.
And supported by Councilman Eisenbacher, that we have a substitute motion to replace the name of the firm for the search for the Waters Consulting Group with all the other things indicated in the resolution where were indicated for the one that Councilman Kerwin moved and Councilman Beltramini seconded. Discussion? Yes. Councilwoman Beltramini?
Two things. And I think it was an oversight, but Mayor Pro Tem Harlech said replace Waters-Oldani in all places where MML was listed. But Councilwoman Kerwin, in her resolution, stated that MML was the lowest bid and the highest rated
Correct.
objectively, and therefore Waters-Aldani cannot be substituted in that era. So I just put that out there so that you can comment on that and say do that in all places or not. The other thing I will tell you, and I told you all this 3 weeks ago, I used my network. And the reports I got on Waters-Aldani were not all glowing. And therefore, I will not support this motion.
I need to ask a question at this point. I did not bring with me my sheets from the firms, so I want to know the cost factors again for each of the groups. Does someone have that information with them? I know, I had that in there. No, for when we did our
Yeah, it's on the thumb drive.
ratings. No. All right, I took it out.
Mayor?
It's yours? Is that all of our sheets?
Same, yeah, it's all of them.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
What I'm reading is for Waters 18.5, and I believe the MML was 17. So they're very close. Yes, MML was 17. Waters 18.5.
I do have
Plus expenses.
Well, both of them have expenses.
Some have them in-state and some have them out-of-state.
Okay. I do have the final scoring sheet here, which puts Michigan Municipal League at 83.5 points and Waters at 77.15, and then the others below that. Further discussion?
Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem Howard?
Yeah, just for discussion purposes, and I'm curious as we look back, because I do want to be certainly open to properly evaluating this. I'm curious as to how do we think the last search went? Were we satisfied with it? Because I hear one of my colleagues mentioning that maybe some community, I'm sure all communities at some point have an unpleasant experience with the result of the process, and maybe that's because of the community or the people that are the elected officials or whatever the case might be. But I'm just curious, when we look back on it, how do we think the last process went?
Well, my feeling was that the process went fine. It was thorough. We all had a chance to evaluate. I thought it went fine. I don't know, others can comment that were here at that time.
Mayor?
Yes.
Well, I wasn't, it's not any
Councilwoman.
secret that I was not satisfied with the process. While it appeared to be thorough on paper, I did not have the sense that the company was listening to at least me as one of 7. Kind of felt like they knew their job and was going to go out and perform it, which was fine, except when anything outside of the box, so to speak, was presented to them, I really had a sense that they were not following through with looking for those, the direction that I was hoping that they would come back and give us.
Further discussion?
Madam Mayor?
Councilwoman Kerwin?
I wasn't here for that, so we'll just go back to statistics. We really should be data-driven and look at that. You mentioned the rankings. That is a significant statistical difference between each one. Again, I think that it's in the best interest to move quickly on this with a firm that has full experience both in and out. There was a concern that MML could not do national. They have done national. could not do private sector. They have done private sector. They can be responsive on request. My council member Beltramini's seatmate right here, a concern about being listened to and respected. There's a history of that I think should come foremost, and I'm ready to vote for MML and have them start the search tomorrow.
Further discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Councilwoman Beltrame?
I go back to experience in the field in the area. And I understand Councilman Harlech's concerns, but in this 2-page list that Waters-Aldani gave us, talking about what wonderful searches they have done, these came without a time frame, and this is a firm that's been in business for quite some time. We have one city manager in Minnesota, one city manager in Iowa, and one city manager in a very small town in Kansas. Well, no, Kansas isn't a small town, it's Emporia. In a 2-page list. This is a company that recruits heavily in the West. That is what you will get in a national search from this group. So I say that because that is obviously where their network is.
Further discussion?
Mayor,
Council, is that
if I may.
Councilman Eisenbacher? Yes.
Yeah, going back to a point that was just made regarding the experience of the Michigan Municipal League, I have written in my notes from the telephone interview and my review of their packet that the Municipal League has no private sector contacts, no private sector experience, and currently no private sector reach. I don't know if I missed it somewhere, because I just tried to look through their packet again very closely, but that's the notes I had written down during the interview when the question was asked during the interview.
Further discussion of the resolution that's before us? I'm trying to scroll through Waters to see their total amount that they asked, because I had a different figure on my sheet based on the things that they indicated.
26.
There would be extra costs.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Howard?
If you're on that thumb drive, I've got on page 81.
Okay, thank you. Well, I appreciate that, thank you. Yes, they had optional service costs and other things around here. Okay, further discussion of the motion.
Madam Mayor.
Councilman Fleming.
Also, Waters offers what they term a price protection initiative. And I'll read that from their proposal. It says, our price protection initiative is designed for new clients in new markets. Simply stated, we will match the lowest comparable proposal's price, including professional fees and project-related expenses that you have received during the proposal review process. We only ask that we have 1 day to review and acknowledge the scope of equivalent work offered by the lowest bidder. In addition to our price protection initiative, we also offer the guarantee that we will not provide any fewer services than outlined in the lowest comparable proposal's scope of work. In short, we guarantee the highest quality service in the market at the lowest price. So they're saying they will meet the price and scope of work.
Where did they indicate? Remember when we had the phone conversation? They said that the person heading up the search is located?
Cleveland. Cleveland.
Cleveland? Because remember, we're going to end up having a series of meetings again. I don't think that we can assume that any firm we're going to choose is just going to take what we did when we had chosen another firm and run with it. So we need to keep that in mind.
Mayor?
Yes. Councilman Eisenbacher?
Another thing that this firm, Waters Group, had listed in their form was video conferencing. And I know from personal experience with doing regular video conferences with people all over the world that that's just as effective as traveling, because we can set up and have amazingly it's the same sound quality as if you were sitting there, the same view as if you were sitting there in terms of being able to control a view. We could potentially cut down significantly on the travel by having a video conference with this person during our meetings, especially like the one we had last week. That could have been done just as effectively by video as it was by in person, and we could move the city forward in that direction also.
Further discussion? The motion in front of us is a substitute motion. You folks ready for a vote? Hearing none, then hearing no comment, otherwise I'll call on Mrs. Bartholomew. This is for the substitute motion for Waters.
Councilmember Kerwin?
No.
Mayor Schilling?
No.
Councilmember Beltramini?
No.
Broomfield?
Yes.
Eisenbacher?
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes.
Howrlack?
Yes.
Motion passes. Is there any other business we need to take care of on
Just
this
got to
item?
vote as
You
substitute.
want to- The motion passes.
Just clarifying,
You need another vote.
Yeah.
Mrs. Bartholomew, that's why I asked.
We have to,
Yeah.
That was to substitute.
There was a motion to substitute. You have
Yes.
to now do the amended main motion.
Yes, thank you.
Which is clarifying before we went on. That vote was on a more expensive firm that ranked lower in the evaluations. That's correct?
Mm-hmm.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Eisenbacher, did you ask for the floor first? Or was it
Well-
Councilman Howard?
It doesn't really matter. But one of the search criteria that we've asked for as a criteria is to have some private sector experience, some reach outside of Michigan, and MML does not meet that criteria in my mind.
Well, you know what?
Mr. Councilwoman Kerwin?
When you go back to the evaluation forms, and it talks about last searches in Michigan, which was a consideration, this firm doesn't score high there. So I don't know how you're trying to dress this up. But the fact is, people just marched out in front of the city building, complaining about the waste of tax dollars. And this is a perfect example of a waste of tax dollars.
And we should
I call for the
clarify,
vote.
they were marching in regard to tax day. They weren't marching for City of Troy, but we don't know.
marched.
They just
Let me
happened
tell you
to
what they marched.
pick this area to march in.
Mayor?
Mr. Barth, yes, I'm sorry. Mayor Pro Tem Howrlack, I meant to call on you.
Sure, thank you. Well, I find that to be extremely ironic because we're talking about $1,000. And I offer two things. One is that most of you on council voted in favor of hiring a lobbyist, and that has a monthly fee well in excess of $1,000. And most of you on council, if you look at J2A, are spending the city's dollar tax money on a telephone line. It says here that Mary Kerwin's quarterly expense was $212.85, and 4 of those quarters add up to almost $1,000. It says Councilman Howrelack, 0. And Councilman Howrelack, that's me, has been 0 for a number of years. Councilman Eisenbacher, also 0. By the way, he doesn't even use the city computer, to my
Point of
knowledge.
order. Is this
And,
okay?
Mayor?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Howard.
Anyway, Councilwoman Kerwin, I think that your criticisms of this resolution on the table are very much out of line. I would certainly advise you that if you want to be consistent, that you should refund the money that you've been receiving for your telephone line.
Mayor?
Councilwoman Broomfield.
I couldn't find Councilman Fleming shared, he read at length that Waters matches.
Page 82.
Was it page 82? Is that, because I was looking everywhere. So obviously that would be something we would ask this company to honor, and they would match the other bids.
Except for expenses.
Well, we'll see what happens with the vote, and then we'll see what the discussion would be. With that, we had a 4-3 vote, and we need a vote now on the main motion. Correct, Mr. Pagano?
Correct.
Okay. Go ahead.
Mayor Schilling?
No.
Councilmember Beltramini?
No.
Broomfield?
Yes.
Eisenbacher?
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes.
Howrelack?
Yes.
Kerwin?
No.
Motion passes. Any other items we need to handle on this? If not, this is our traditional time when we take a break and then we can go to the other items we need to deal with. Okay, council will take a 10-minute break and return. Are some of the folks here students that need signatures?
This is one.
If you'd like to come forward. council's back.
Madam Mayor?
For a break, Councilwoman Beltrame.
Before we move totally on from this item, I'm wondering if, in the interest of time and the fact that staff's going to try and negotiate the contract down as far as price, if it would be in our best interest to approve as to substance the ads as presented by the city attorney on the table tonight.
Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem Howard.
We certainly spent enough time on it. I think it would be appropriate.
Yes. I agree.
You want to move a resolution, Councilwoman Beltrame?
I will be, well,
I want to add.
okay.
I want to add the Midwestern values.
Okay. That will come in the
Okay.
in the profile. I'm talking about the ad and the
Okay.
95 versions of the ad.
Councilwoman Kerwin?
I would prefer and feel more comfortable with the Mercer ad, which we actually own because we bought that property, but it was well-written and covered a great deal.
It's 3 years old.
But it was well done. I don't have that. I don't have the Mercer one in front of me here. What's council's pleasure on this?
That's why I asked.
I'm in
Well,
agreement.
I think we need to have a resolution so that we can move on with other things.
Mayor?
Councilwoman Brumfield?
I'm trying to find it here. I think if I understood Councilwoman Beltramini's thoughts, it was an approval of this information for them to look at, not a final, you have to use this.
I think that's all we can do. We've hired a new firm, or hopefully
Correct.
hired.
And I think that would be an appropriate step at this time, and they can look at the Mercer ad as well. But this is just something that we're saying we are approving what we have in front of us, and would like you to use it, but you can come back with
Tweak it.
something different as long as it's not going to take forever to do it.
Yeah, it was my thought that if we recognized it as a relatively accurate
Correct.
synopsis of our meeting last Thursday night, that gave a springboard from which to go forward.
Yes, and I would agree with that. And
So what we're doing is just approving the
ad,
sending
not the
it
profile,
on-
the ad.
Right, sending it on to,
And this, I haven't looked at the one before, so Madam Mayor, this one doesn't have grammatical errors or spelling errors.
Right.
Checked. Well, I haven't checked it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you brought it up. So, or it didn't make the significant changes that we had requested.
as corrected. Okay, somebody want to move a resolution?
Madam Mayor, I would
Councilman Beltrame?
move that council approve the various versions of the advertisement for the city manager position as presented on the table tonight by the city attorney.
Second.
And approve as to substance.
Second that.
Moved by Councilwoman Beltrame, seconded by Councilman Fleming, that council approve sending on the advertisements, not the
Yes.
job? You want the job announcement? The long
No, the
advertisement?
various
Sure.
versions of the advertisement, they're all the same.
The profile and the questions, in other words, to provide...
No, not the profile and
those.
questions,
Okay.
just the
Just the
ads.
ads. Okay, that's why I'm clarifying. Discussion? The vote, Mrs. Bartholomew?
Councilmember Beltramini?
Yes.
Brumfield?
Yes.
Eisenbacher?
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Kerwin?
No.
Mayor Schilling?
No. Motion passes. Any other on this item? Okay, then we'll move to the F items. Does anyone have any F items they wish to have exempted? There were none that were requested by members of the audience.
F2.
F2, Member Tom Howard. Anyone else? Okay, you want to move a resolution, Member Tom Howard?
Sure. That was just the one item, right?
Right.
So resolve that all items are as presented on the consent agenda are hereby approved as presented with the exception of item F2, which shall be considered after consent agenda F items as printed. Support.
Moved by Member Tom Howard, seconded by Councilman Eisenbacher, that we approve all the items for the consent agenda item except F2, which shall be considered after this vote. Discussion? The vote, Mrs. Bartholomew?
Councilmember Broomfield?
Yes.
Eisenbacher?
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Kerwin?
Yes.
Mayor Schilling?
Yes.
Councilmember Beltramini?
Yes.
Motion passes. F2, Mayor Pro Tem Howard, you had a question on that or
Mayor,
change? Yes.
well, I just have, I guess I talked to the our parliamentarian, who's the city clerk, and she had some an amendment to the minutes as printed regarding the withdrawal of a resolution at the last regular meeting, and so I would request that through proper channels if we could address that to her for comments.
Yes. Go ahead. Yes, Mrs. Bartholomew?
In looking at the minutes, and I'm sorry I didn't catch this until after you received them, but a withdrawal motion should never make it into the minutes. When they're withdrawn, they disappear. The reason for that is it looks like a failed motion, and it is not a failed motion. It's a motion that does not exist.
Right.
So at this point in time, I would ask that that be stricken from the minutes.
And replaced with something else?
No, it would just goes away.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Eisbacher?
I had some time.
On the minutes?
Well, on the minutes.
That's what this item is.
Oh, yeah. We got another item later.
Sorry.
Yeah, nothing on the minutes. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes, you're correct.
All right.
Additionally, there was a correction placed on the table.
Yes.
And as far in regards to the numbering of the minutes, you will have the numbering sequence will be different, but that is the only reference.
Okay. All right, so you want to move the minutes as corrected? Somebody want to, or you still looking at those?
Madam Mayor, are you
Yes.
waiting for a motion?
Yes.
I would move to approve the minutes as corrected. The two corrections laid on the table and the withdrawal and the motion going away. And renumbering as necessary.
Do we have a second?
Support.
Moved by Councilwoman Beltramini, seconded by Councilwoman Broomfield, that we approve the F2, which is the minutes with the changes and the item of the withdrawal removed. Discussion? Vote, Mrs. Bartholomew?
Councilmember Eisenbacher?
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Kerwin?
Yes.
Mayor Schilling?
Yes.
Councilman Beltramini?
Yes.
Broomfield?
Yes.
Motion passes. Okay, over here. Memorandums. Next week we have the budget study on the 27th. And in the items, we have the submittal of the budget And I was just one comment, not that I've gone through all of it yet, but I did notice the format, and I was especially pleased to see the way that it was done with the light orange highlighted areas about the things that were the salient points. I thought that it was laid out very clearly and succinctly. Appreciate all of the work of all of the staff that goes into the budget, and look forward to an interesting meeting with budget study. You know, we did our budgeting for outcomes, all of our work and everything, and all that has been encapsulated into this budget. So I just thought I'd comment since we received a copy here. And are there any council comments?
I have one.
Councilman Eisenbacher?
G2B.
G2B, okay.
Question for either the clerk or the attorney. I was looking at page 123, our agenda. And then, which was laid out our three options. And the one topic of discussion was the irrevocable letter of resignation. I was curious about how that would work.
Well,
one of the concerns was that you wanted that person to serve until the last day, the day before the election, so their last day of eligibility. So you could submit that letter, irrevocable letter of resignation, which would, again, cover the needs of, if a special election, if the regular election was required, then you'd have the candidates in the queue before then, and they would participate in the election.
Okay.
So it would be effective as of the date, whether or not that person was elected to the other office.
Okay, so it wouldn't be a conditional letter?
The way that it's proposed now is irrevocable.
Okay.
you wanted to be thinking about the different options.
Yeah, I'm trying to...
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of an irrevocable letter of...
It's the first time I've seen it.
other than
Of
credit.
resignation.
I mean, you
Right,
have
yeah.
letters of credit from the bank, but not of actions. Okay.
So is that item going to come to us on the next regular meeting, not the budget meeting? Mrs. Bartholomew?
If I could give just a little bit more insight on that as well. You cannot advertise a position unless it is declared vacant, and that's why
Right.
you need to go that way.
Would we need like a new ordinance to define irrevocable letter, or is that something that's already out there in law books and stuff?
It's a generally understood it's a generally understood term.
Okay.
Okay, council comments?
Oh, Your Honor?
Oh,
I'm sorry,
yes.
I'm still not
Mr.
sure.
Zerlich?
And pardon my ignorance, I'm still not clear what you want to do with G2B. It's a
Isn't
report
it going to come to
communication
us as an agenda?
Well, I think
don't know.
unless, this is
Pardon?
up to you, but right now, it's a report.
Oh.
And it's a report, and the consequences of that report have no impact on the administration of city government, as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
So unless directed to do something with this is a report, and I would suggest that we do nothing with it unless I'm told otherwise.
Okay.
Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem Harlow.
So let me see if I understand this wording that came out of the Charter Revision Committee. This is a resignation that has to be filed before the resignation is effective. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other? Councilwoman Kerwin?
I spoke with the clerk earlier because there's a subject verb grammatical problem on this that will be fixed anyhow, right?
If the item is requested to be brought back, I will make a notation of that and bring it forward.
Because if this were to become charter elected, we would want it cleaned up.
So is council asking to have this be an agenda item or just a report? We want done with it. We sent it back to Charter Revision. They've looked at it. There's different options that are in their meeting, and that's what Mr. Zerleg is asking about.
Thank you.
Yes?
If none of the
Councilman
people that
Eisenbacher?
haven't spoken yet on this item want to speak, I think it's an improvement. It's definitely better to have a resignation that becomes effective at the election, basically, than having to resign months ahead of the election and leaving a less than full council behind. I'm still concerned that we have two classes of council members, ones that would have to resign and ones that wouldn't have to resign, but it is a definite improvement. I think that the language to explain this to the voting population and getting the understanding out there to the public is going to be rather tricky.
Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem Honolulu?
Oh, I think somebody else at the other side requested the floor before me. Or not.
No, nobody,
Okay.
nobody did.
Well,
Sorry.
No worries.
I don't
just
know
did.
that their sides on this.
Well, I just want to make sure I wasn't jumping in front of anybody. But I think we should either keep what we have or totally get rid of this section. I'm not in favor of this wording. My bigger concern, I must tell you, is we've had discussions before in council briefly about how the mayor should be chosen. And instead of dealing with this, I would rather change how the mayor is selected and do it similar to how they do it in Birmingham and Auburn Hills, and make it a selection of a member of council, because we don't have a strong mayoral form of government here. I think that would take care of this issue as well, so that's my 2 cents. But if we don't go that route, I'd rather that we not take any action, or that we refer it back to the Charter Revision Commission, because it's interesting in that it was a 3-to-1 vote. There was many people that were absent as voted in favor of this. So I know it's an advisory board and not a definitive decision-making board, but I'm curious as to how the other 3 felt. Although one of those 3 is actually a new person now. I don't know that this is necessarily an issue that needs to be addressed immediately either.
In discussing if we wanted to change how the mayoral position is changed from the charter, some of the cities have it that they vote from the council members. Some of them do it according to who's high vote getter, and they change every year. And that's what you were looking at, exploring whether we want to do that or we don't want to do that. I don't know that we've had a lot of people out in the community concerned about changing it. That might be something that would be interesting to find out.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilwoman Broomfield?
I've brought that up a couple times in the last several years, that I would like to see us at least discuss it, and for me, it's the piece is removing the political partisan tendency. When we run for office, when people run for office, then they're running for the council, not necessarily the mayoral seat, and then the council appoints on a yearly or bi-yearly. And I think it just, I'm not saying that resolves the whole problems of the influence of political ideation, but I think it helps if people take turns, and it's based on, even like Mayor Pro Tem, it's based on seniority on council. So, I don't know that we've ever gotten anything back. We discuss it. We don't send it to the charter revision. I don't know if this council is interested in sending something like that, just to have some input back. But I have often brought that up, that I would be interested in seeing something like that.
I know with the Mayor Pro Tem position, it had always been, we had yearly elections, and so every year someone would get it, and it always rotated according to seniority on council. And everybody had their turn if they ran for election again and were elected. But then we went to the 2-year cycle with the voting council terms. So the mayor pro tem position became a 2-year position, and then it rotates every 2 years. So I know some cities are very comfortable with doing it the other way. We've always, since 1955, have always done it the other way. I don't know. I haven't heard any big discussion about it, except a couple council members here have brought it up. Further discussion? Councilman Eismacher?
I'm also interested in exploring that option because it does make this, and I do appreciate the long research that we received in the packet. I mean, we had basically 30, 40 pages of discussion on this whole problem of having to resign before running for mayor. And if the council just selects the mayor or the top vote getter or whatever process, I believe it would simplify it. And back to that point, I mean, the functional mayor of the city is the city manager. I mean, he does the day-to-day operation. But since we're a council manager form of government, it's the chief of they're the chair of the council that is the mayor in our city. I think it's something we should send to our charter revision committee and request input from our city clerk relative to the other communities, what it would involve changing in the ballot. I'd be willing to put forward that motion. I'd like to hear some of the other thoughts from the members who haven't spoken, though.
Madam Mayor.
Councilwoman Kerwin?
I just wanted to point out, it's a little bit more than just cheering. There's a ceremonial role that goes along with the mayor, and we have had before. I do recall the election of the mayor who, at that night, said, I won't be available to do any of those things. Those things, including the ribbon cuts or meeting with people, are important to our citizens. And that's a role that top vote getters necessarily might not be able to fulfill. That's why the intention of running for mayor and being able to do those things that are expected of a mayor, attendance at events and signing of letters and all of those ceremonial things in addition to chairing the meetings are important.
There's also a call upon to give speeches on various things in the city, just different kinds of activities. But again, if the citizens decide that they want to have a rotating basis mayor, I just have not heard discussion out in the community of that. That's just what I was indicating. Councilman Beltrame?
Like you, I haven't heard a lot of community discussion, but I know that among ourselves, we've talked about this for some time, and so, again, using my network, I've done a little anecdotal survey and have found that I cannot find a community that moved from an elected mayor to a elected from the council mayor system. I found many communities that moved from an elected by the council system to an elected mayor system, under the premise that their citizens really wanted to know that they could choose who was speaking on their behalf to various other organizations and who would be representing them. I'm not opposed to asking the Charter Revision Committee and the clerk to do some formal research to either back up or prove me wrong. As a citizen of Troy, I tend to think that I'm much more comfortable choosing myself who is going to represent the city of Troy. And yet I know quite often I represent the city of Troy a lot of places that the mayor doesn't. So I guess they don't really get to choose as much as they think they do sometimes. But she does wear that title, and I think the people chose that person to wear that title. And at least sending it to the Charter Revision Committee, I, like Martin, am a little concerned that 3 people voted yes and 3 people were absent.
Right.
So I certainly don't want to make a decision based on those numbers. But that in and of itself might generate discussion in the community, that some people are concerned about. So if that's where we want to go with this, that's fine.
What's council's pleasure at this point?
Madam Mayor, I'm a little...
Councilman Kerwin?
What are we talking about? Are we talking about the proposal in blue that's before us, for one, or are we talking about other things at the same time?
Yes.
Only other things.
What is...
I understood the proposal on the table now was based on this scenario that we got. There was no consensus among council, but there was some interest on council's part to send the election of the mayor to the Charter Revision Committee. Did I miss that?
Yes, no,
You're
right.
right,
Okay.
right track.
Right. That's what I thought we were at.
And Madam
Yes,
Mayor,
Councilman Kerwin.
Chair, and what are we doing with the resolution that Councilmember Eisenbacher brought before us? His request was to do what? Did you say that you were moving this?
No, I said I was open to making the resolution. I wanted to hear all my colleagues before doing it so we didn't end up with a bunch more resolutions.
Well, we originally were speaking about this, and I would be in favor of moving this one back for consideration, to have more people vote and to clean up the language that isn't as crisp as the language was in prior wordings.
That's what Mr. Zerleg was asking for, was clarification on the item that had already been in front of the Charter Revision Committee. And then you added on the extra part. So we still have to resolve that. Is it council's wish to have more of the Charter Revision Committee present other than just a simple majority? Yes, Councilman Fleming?
Madam Mayor, I've been quiet on this, but I do think we need to hear from more of the Charter Revision Committee on this one. And I don't have a strong opinion about how the mayor is elected or appointed or whatever, but I'd like to hear from the people as to what they would think, and maybe take that back to the Charter Revision Committee to look at it both points.
Okay. Madam Mayor, I have one more then. We're just going to do this in a
Councilman
lump sum. And that would be what Mayor Pro Tem Harlech brought up earlier, which was to ask the Charter Revision Committee to take a look at the wording, to consider the 120-day requirement for appointment of a city manager.
But they could look at that. So there's three things we want
Correct.
the Charter Revision Committee.
Well, and I might add.
Do we need
I don't know whether this is under rules. Is it in the charter, the rotation of the mayor pro tem?
Yes,
Because
Yes.
that would be the next thing. That used to be a rotation based on seniority. Since we are term limited, it would be possible that one could serve a number of terms and never be senior enough if we continued on the 2-year cycle.
Right.
So it would be better, I think we'd be better served to have that rotate naturally during the terms.
Do you
Every
need
year.
A resolution, Mr. Zerleg, for all of these? You want to encapsulate all of this into one resolution, and then we'll...
That would be fine, maybe an A, B, or A, B, and C. A would be that you would go back to the Charter Revision Committee to have, I would say, discussion only when there are 7 members present. You don't want to have it go back again next month with 4 members present. That might be the first thing you want to do. I think you also want to go back and talk about whether, after doing some research, it has feasibility to select a mayor from the governing body as opposed to having a direct mayoral election. And then the third item I wasn't that clear on, quite frankly. That was clarification of what was already inherent in your initial proposal.
No, that was the 120 days to appoint
okay.
a city manager.
All
That's a
right.
new item.
That was a new one.
That was a new one?
The other thing, in addition, we, Councilwoman Beltramini mentioned about having staff check other cities to see how they have handled the mayoral position. She said that there were none that went from...
None that I could find.
Pardon?
I didn't find any
Okay.
in the people I
That
talked
went
to.
from an elected mayor to a rotated mayor, where some went from a rotated mayor to an elected mayor position in the cities. Just so they have, Charter Revision Committee has that information, and we do. If we're going to discuss the item, might as well have the information.
Sure.
Yes.
Do you
Who
want
wants
to
to go
add, do you
next?
want to add Mary's point about the mayor pro tem rotation as well?
And the mayor, that would be the fourth one. The mayor, pro tem rotation to annual. Mrs. Bloom?
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to point out that this is actually on the council agenda as a green item, and in the past what that has meant is that we don't normally have City Council taking any action on those items. However, we'd be happy, I think I can speak for Ms. Bartholomew, in that if you wanted us to bring back a proposed resolution for the next City Council meeting, possibly referring some of these items to the Charter Revision Committee, then I think that could certainly be done.
Okay. That'll be at the next regular meeting, not at the budget session.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be a regular meeting
All
item.
right, okay. Is that fine? Meanwhile, they can work up a resolution encapsulating all of those. Okay? For the next meeting. Okay. Any other council comments? Council Bill Committee, got stuff?
I have two things. First, I alluded to this, so this isn't a total surprise with Mr. Zerlich, but I noticed in the Historic Commission's minutes that the bus is no longer available for museum events. And so my question is, are we selling the bus? What are we doing with the bus?
I'd be happy to answer that question, but John Lamorato would be happier.
Okay.
Mayor and City Council, we are reviewing the usage of the bus. It may have been a little misinformed from the Historical Commission that it's not available at this point. We are, though, reviewing the use. The use is very low. It's a very expensive bus to keep in service, and we are looking at, if it makes sense to get rid of the bus and have that fee just built into the price of whatever services are, because we have to have drivers, you have to have insurance and so forth. So we are looking at it, and we have not decided yet. The motor pool director is reviewing that with Parks and Recreation, the main user of it, and to see if it makes economical sense.
Okay, Council Beltrame.
As a follow-up to that, have we ever looked at using that bus for other sorts of things? And by that I mean sponsoring bus trips to Tigers games, Red Wings games, even Lions games, up to the Palace. It seems to me that there are places people go in large groups from this town where they just as soon give us $5 or $10 to not have to drive and not have to park, and they ride a bus. And what is the break-even point at that bus for that kind of mileage? What would we have to charge? Could we do it? And do we rent it out to any of our nonprofits that might have field trips or those sorts of things?
And then there
we are looking at it. We are looking at it. The bus does not have restroom facilities on it, which is a concern for any long distance type trips and so forth.
Sure.
But and even down to the stadiums and so forth. Sometimes the need arises. But we are looking at it, and even with that, to go to 10 baseball games a year or 2 football games or whatever it may be, the cost of just having it, the insurance and so forth, we're looking at that, and it's a means of whether or not we can still justify that operation of it. Or if you want to do that, you just include the price you rent out with the company who provides bus service and pay the price for that.
I understand
We need
that.
to have our own bus is what we're looking at. So we are looking at it, and we should get a report back in the next couple days on that.
I'm thinking there are Friday night events at the DIA that we could probably put together once a quarter, 40 people to put on that bus. And while I understand your restroom facility comment, we do take the seniors to Windsor on that bus, so it must work for some.
The other thing to go along with that would be the driver, restrictions
Right.
on who the driver is and the coverage of whether an employee.
He mentioned that.
Yeah.
He mentioned that.
Right.
Now, on to, I promised you all that when I went to my little meetings across the state, I'd bring you back what they told me and what they taught me. This week's community projects were the City of Mason put in a new water treatment plant. Thank goodness we're not going to have to do that, so I'll let that go. East Lansing put together a program much like our Citizens Academy, but it was geared to young professionals, and it was themed so that they could repeat if they wanted to. You know, it might be sustainability or other things that are of value to the community, and then it was a 6-week program that taught them how that worked in the community, and then they would go forth and teach people and serve on boards and committees. The one that won was the city of Allegan, that their business community came to them and said, you know, we got a website, you got a website, but if people are looking to find out what's going on in Allegan, it's not really easy. And so they put together virtually the entire community on a single website that's called Only One Allegan. And you open up that website, and there's a 1 to 3 minute video on events in town. And then there's a 1 to 3 minute video on the historical district and the heritage. There's one on downtown, there's one on education, medical services, outdoor life, public safety, and then there's a place you click on that says resources. And that is the place that links to all of the county government, the city government, the school district, and all of that. So it really is a one-stop shop for the city of Allegan if you're looking to move or work there. So that was what won out of Region 2, and that's something for all of us to look at. It also included their local TV or radio station, and so they had live, recent news clips in there too. So that was that project. I'm done.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yes.
Councilman Eisbacher?
If I may. One thing that we've discussed at this table and was part of our futures was regionalism and cooperation with other local communities. We've also received a proposal for that. I would like to move forward with that proposal, trying to look at cooperating with local communities as much as possible, trying to leverage where we can, where it makes sense. And this is like looking towards the next budget, not the one we just received. And I'd like to have something come back to this council in terms of a formal proposal of how it would work, how we would move forward with more regional cooperation.
Which proposal are you talking about?
The one that had been forwarded by John Zerlag.
We also got something sent to
Oh,
us
you're talking
from
about
SEMCOG.
Yes, that one was
Oh.
good too.
That SEMCOG mentioned a whole bunch of stuff that, and I understand that there's a couple other things, something for U of M that we do about regionalism. I think it's something that we need to explore, what we want to do and how we want to do it.
Be a good study session.
Right. After we get past the budget time.
Honestly, I don't think we have time to wait. I mean,
Well-
the draft budget's been put forward to us. I think as soon as it's possible, we need to get started.
Well, yeah, I agree, but we also have a search firm we need to work with, the budget, so I'm saying if we're going to have a meeting to discuss some of this, it'll have to be set on the agenda after we get these other things accomplished, or at least working along with it.
Mayor, if we wait till after we've got a new city manager, we're going to be beyond the deadlines for having items submitted for our next budget.
No, I didn't mean that. I
Okay.
just meant the initial meetings and getting everything set and getting through approving this budget.
So 2 weeks.
Mayor?
Councilwoman Broomfield?
I'd like to see some proposals, and I'll tell you why. While Mr. Zerlag is with us, I'd like to see if we can look at some new ideas of addressing the $5.5 million deficit that we're going to be faced with next year. And that's going to be about looking at proposals, making some, having discussion, potentially making some choices of possibly looking at new ways of bringing our city with other cities together. So I'd like that to come out. I don't know that we have to wait on it. I mean, it takes us forever to get through stuff anyway, so we might as well start now.
Further discussion?
Yeah,
Any
Madam
other
Mayor?
council items? Councilwoman?
As we talk about this, I'm thinking that probably Christina said it best when she said we're going to have to make some hard choices. So maybe that's the umbrella under which to foster this discussion, and it would include regionalism and budget decisions and those kinds of things as we look forward, and it would be all part of a piece that I think most of us would be very comfortable with in starting a series of study sessions to look at that as quickly as possible.
Okay. Anything else? Councilwoman Kerwin?
Many of us will be together on Thursday when Troy Youth Assistance recognizes some of our wonderful kids throughout the community.
It's Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday, I'm sorry. That's right. Same night as TOPS. You can go to TOPS and eat food to benefit the Boys and Girls Club, and then follow that up, isn't it, at 7 p.m. at Athens High School on Wednesday. Hope to see you there.
Any other items? We do have a closed session request, so would someone like to move that? Oh, I'm sorry. Public comment? No. Pardon? Yes.
I didn't sign up for it, but I have.
Mrs. Zambrowski, come forward.
Sitting back here and watching during the time that you were deciding on picking a consultant and everything, and even though the young man came up here and a comment was made by you, Mayor, that one of our councilmen suggested the name, but at the same time Councilman Beltramini said she did networking, so I can't see the difference between doing networking from one council person or somebody submitting a name. And I thought it was nice that he even came up and just wanted to ask if you want any questions. I also would say that I have feelings that it doesn't matter whether this consulting firm ever hired a manager or not. Maybe since he didn't hire one, he might bring in the best manager. I would consider that a lot more than I would consider somebody that went through 20 managers for 20 different states. So it's just food for thought.
Any others? Okay, motion for the closed session.
Mayor.
Councilwoman Beltramini? Is that you?
I resolve that the Troy City Council shall meet in closed session as permitted by MCL 15.268E, Rum Love v. City of Troy.
Moved by Councilwoman Beltramini, seconded by Councilman Fleming, that council shall meet in closed session as permitted by MLC 15.268, Rome Love versus City of Troy. Discussion? Vote, Mr. Bartholomew?
Councilmember Fleming?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Kerwin? Yes. Mayor Schilling?
Yes.
Councilmember Beltramini?
Yes.
Broomfield?
Yes.
Eisenbacher?
Yes.
Motion passed. We'll recess and reconvene in the other room for the closed session.